Captain Vex slammed his scaly fist against the control panel of the cosmic menace, sending sparks flying in every direction. Which, honestly, happened pretty much every time anyone touched anything on this rust bucket they called a starship. "We need another human," Vex hissed, his forked tongue flicking out in frustration. The last one escaped while we were explaining our evil plan. "Who does that?" First Mate Gorp, a 6-foot-tall insectoid whose anxiety levels could power a small moon, chittered nervously. "Maybe we shouldn't have spent 3 hours detailing exactly how we plan to use him as a psychological weapon against our enemies, Captain." And nonsense. Vex waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Villainous monologuing is tradition. Besides, humans are supposed to be too stupid and primitive to understand complex schemes." Zara, their weapons specialist who existed as a vaguely humanoid collection of crackling energy, pulsed brighter with indignation. That human was clearly defective. Real humans are supposed to be bloodthirsty monsters who solve everything with violence. This conversation was taking place in what passed for the bridge of their ship, though calling it a bridge was being generous. It was more like a room where broken computers went to die. The view screen flickered between showing space, static, and what appeared to be reruns of an alien cooking show. There, Gorp pointed one of his 4 arms at a nearby space station. "Kepler Station Omega. Humans work there. We can just grab one." Vex squinted at the display. "Perfect. Look for someone in military uniform. Those are the dangerous ones." An hour later, they were prowling the maintenance levels of Kepler Station Omega, which smelled like recycled air and disappointment. Most of the humans they encountered were either too busy or too caffeinated to pay attention to 3 obvious aliens skulking around like discount ninjas. "There," Vex whispered, pointing at a figure bent over an access panel. "Military uniform." Jake Murphy was indeed wearing a uniform, if you counted maintenance coveralls as military attire. The name patch read Murphy J and his job title was Senior Waste Reclamation Specialist, but the pirates were too far away to read the fine print. Jake was elbow deep in a malfunctioning waste processor, muttering things like, "Who designed this garbage?" "And I swear, if I have to fix another clogged intake valve, I'm requesting hazard pay." The pirates approached with what they assumed was menacing stealth. Gorp immediately tripped over a maintenance cart, sending tools clattering everywhere. Jake looked up, saw 3 aliens standing there looking sheepish, and sighed. "Let me guess, you're here about the sanitation systems on Level C. Look, I already filed a report. The biofilters need replacing, but procurement says they're back-ordered for 6 months. Vex blinked his yellow eyes. This wasn't how recruitment was supposed to go. No, we're here to recruit you. For a mission." "Oh, thank the stars," Jake said, wiping his hands on his coveralls. "Please tell me it's off station. I've been trying to transfer out of waste management for 2 years. Zara flickered uncertainly. "Transfer?" "Yeah, I applied for salvage operations. Figured it couldn't be worse than this job." "You guys are from Titan Salvage, right?" The posting mentioned exotic locations and competitive pay. The 3 pirates exchanged glances. Gorp was the first to recover. "Yes, that's us. Titan Salvage. We salvage things. Definitely salvage, not piracy." "Great," Jake said, already heading toward what he hoped was a shuttle bay. "When do we leave? And please tell me your ship has better waste management systems than this place. I'm tired of fixing other people's plumbing disasters." Vex followed, feeling like this conversation had gotten away from him somewhere around waste management. "Our ship is called the Cosmic Menace." "Menace? That's an unusual name for a salvage vessel," Jake commented. "It's because we menace space debris," Zara said quickly. "We're very aggressive about our salvaging." "Whatever works," Jake shrugged. "As long as I don't have to unclog another sewage processor, I'm in." 20 minutes later, Jake was aboard their ship, looking around with the expression of someone who'd seen worse accommodations, which, given his experience with space station maintenance, was saying something. "So," he said, settling into what passed for a passenger seat, "what's our first salvage job?" The three aliens realized they had absolutely no idea what salvage operations actually involved. "Big salvage," Vex said lamely. "Very big salvage," Gorp added. "The biggest salvage you've ever seen," Zara concluded. Jake nodded. "Standard recovery operation. Got it. What's the target classification? Derelict starship? Asteroid mining platform? Space station?" There was a long pause while the pirates tried to figure out what any of those words meant in a salvage context. "Yes," Vex finally said. Jake's first clue that something was off came when Gorp handed him a plasma rifle and said, "This is your persuasion tool." "Persuasion tool?" Jake examined the weapon with the same expression he'd used to evaluate a broken toilet plunger. "What exactly am I persuading?" "The salvage targets to give us their valuable salvage," Vex explained, which would have made perfect sense if anyone believed that explanation. "You mean negotiate salvage rights?" "Sure, I guess having security equipment makes sense. Pirates are a real problem in some sectors." Zara practically vibrated with excitement. "Yes, pirates. We hate pirates. That's why we're definitely not pirates." Jake was starting to wonder about the hiring standards at Titan Salvage, but he'd worked with stranger crews during his maintenance days. At least these guys seemed enthusiastic. "Okay," he said, setting the rifle aside. "Before we talk about security protocols, can someone show me your ship's maintenance logs? I noticed your primary waste recycling system is making some concerning noises." Vex stared at him. "Waste recycling system?" "Your toilet, Captain," Gorp whispered. "Oh, that. We don't really maintain it. We just replace it when it breaks." Jake looked horrified. "You replace the entire waste management system instead of performing routine maintenance? Do you have any idea how expensive that is? And the environmental impact?" "Environmental impact?" Zara flickered uncertainly. "Never mind," Jake muttered, already making mental notes. "What about your power distribution network? I noticed some fluctuations in the lighting when we came aboard." The truth was, Jake had noticed about 17 different maintenance issues within 5 minutes of boarding. His professional instincts were screaming at him to fix everything immediately, but he was trying to be polite to his new employers. "The lights flicker because it's atmospheric," Vex said proudly. "Creates fear in our enemies." "It creates fire hazards," Jake corrected. "You've got loose connections in your primary electrical grid. One power surge and this whole ship could go dark. How do you handle emergency procedures?" Gorp chittered nervously. "We mostly panic and hope for the best." "That's not a procedure. That's a suicide pact," Jake said, already heading toward what he hoped was an electrical panel. "Look, I know I'm supposed to be learning salvage operations, but can I at least fix your basic life support systems first? I can't work effectively if I'm worried about the ship exploding." The three pirates watched in fascination as Jake located their main electrical panel, which was held together with what appeared to be space duct tape and optimism. "Holy stars," he muttered, opening the panel. "This is a disaster waiting to happen. Who did your last electrical work? A caffeinated monkey?" "We did it ourselves," Vex said defensively. "That explains so much," Jake sighed, already rewiring connections. "Okay, new rule. Nobody touches the electrical systems without supervision. I don't want to get spaced because someone tried to fix a light bulb with a plasma torch." Within an hour, Jake had improved their power efficiency by 30%, fixed their waste management system, and optimized their air recycling to reduce that persistent smell that everyone had just learned to ignore. Vex was starting to panic. This wasn't how humans were supposed to behave. Humans were supposed to be scary and unpredictable, not practical and helpful. Maybe we should start with intimidation training, he suggested desperately. Intimidation? Jake looked up from a maintenance panel. Is that really necessary for salvage work? I mean, I get that we might encounter hostile parties, but isn't negotiation more cost-effective than conflict? Zara pulsed brighter. But conflict is fun. Humans love conflict. I really don't, Jake said. Conflict is expensive and time-consuming. It's much more efficient to find mutually beneficial solutions. Have you considered that your salvage targets might be willing to sell their materials instead of forcing you to take them? The three pirates stared at him like he'd suggested they all take up interpretive dance. Sell? Vex repeated the word like it was foreign. Yeah, basic commerce. You pay them, they give you stuff, everyone's happy. No weapons required. Gorp's antennae drooped. But then how would people know we're dangerous? Why do you want people to think you're dangerous? Jake asked. Dangerous people have a hard time getting good business relationships. Trust me, I've worked with contractors who had reputation problems. Nobody wants to do business with the guy who might shoot you over a billing dispute. There was a long silence while the pirates contemplated this disturbing concept. Jake, Vex said carefully, what exactly do you think salvage operations involve? Finding valuable materials in abandoned ships and facilities, negotiating salvage rights, extracting and processing the materials, then selling them to manufacturers or collectors. Basic resource recovery, Jake explained. Why? Is there something I'm missing? The pirates exchanged looks that screamed we are in way over our heads. 3 days later they approached their first target, a luxury cruise liner called the Celestial Dreams, currently enjoying a peaceful tour of the Andromeda Nebula. Okay team, Vex announced, trying to sound commanding while wearing what appeared to be a costume from a low-budget space opera. Time for our first salvage operation. Jake looked out the view screen at the clearly occupied, brightly lit cruise ship. That doesn't look abandoned. It's about to be abandoned, Zara said, which wasn't technically a lie. Are we doing emergency evacuation support? Jake asked. Is there some kind of disaster situation? Yes, Gorp said quickly. There's about to be a disaster. We're the disaster. Jake blinked. We're the emergency response team. Something like that. Vex activated the communications system, which immediately started sparking because Jake hadn't gotten around to fixing it yet. Attention, Celestial Dreams. This is Captain Vex of the Cosmic Menace. Prepare to be boarded. On the cruise ship, the captain looked confused. Are you with passenger services? We weren't expecting a Menace boarding party until Thursday. No, you don't understand, Vex growled, trying to sound menacing. This is a raid. A what? A raid. We're pirates. We're here to steal your stuff. There was a long pause. Oh no, pirates. How unexpected. Should I sound the alarm? Yes, Vex shouted. Sound the alarm. Panic, flee in terror. Okay, if you insist. This is Captain Williams of the Celestial Dreams. We are apparently being raided by pirates. Please proceed to your emergency stations in an orderly fashion. Try to look terrified. Jake stared at the view screen. Did he just ask his passengers to look terrified? But what kind of pirates are you guys? Bad ones, apparently, Gorp muttered. The boarding process was a disaster from the start. Their docking tube wouldn't extend properly because the mechanism was clogged with space debris. Jake fixed it in 10 minutes while the pirates argued about who was supposed to know how to operate boarding equipment. Once aboard the cruise ship, things got worse. Vex immediately got lost because he couldn't read the ship's directory. Gorp triggered his own panic response and couldn't stop chittering. Zara kept flickering between different energy frequencies, which made the light strobe like a broken disco ball. The cruise ship passengers, meanwhile, seemed more confused than terrified. Most of them were elderly retirees who'd seen worse things at early bird dinners. "Excuse me," one passenger asked Jake politely, "are you part of the entertainment program?" "My grandson loves pirate shows." "No, I am," Jake said, helping Vex untangle himself from a decorative plant. "This is apparently an actual robbery." "Are you okay? Do you need medical assistance?" "Oh my, how considerate." "No, I'm fine, dear. Should I be screaming or something?" Jake looked around at the chaos. Vex was arguing with a maintenance android about proper intimidation protocols. The Gorp was apologizing to everyone he encountered. Zara had somehow managed to get stuck in a ventilation grate. "You know what," Jake said, "let me handle this." He walked over to the cruise ship's customer service desk, where a cheerful employee was still manning her station despite the ongoing piracy situation. "Hi," Jake said. "I'm really sorry about this. My colleagues are new to the business and they're not handling this professionally. Could you help me locate your ship's manifest? We need to identify valuable materials for salvage recovery." The employee smiled brightly. "Of course. Are you with the insurance company?" "Something like that. We're working on asset recovery. I know this is irregular, but could you help us expedite the process? I'd like to minimize disruption to your passengers." "How thoughtful. Here's our cargo manifest, and I have passenger jewelry and electronics declarations if you need those too." "Perfect. Thank you so much. Oh, and could someone check on the gentleman caught in the ventilation system? That's a safety hazard." Within an hour, Jake had organized an efficient transfer of the ship's most valuable portable goods, arranged for medical assistance for 2 passengers who'd had anxiety attacks during the confusion, and helped the cruise staff set up a complimentary buffet for anyone affected by the inconvenience. The cruise ship captain shook Jake's hand as they prepared to leave. "You know, if you ever get tired of the piracy business, we're always looking for good hospitality staff." "Thank you," Jake said. "That's very kind." Back on the Cosmic Menace, Vex stared at the pile of successfully acquired loot. "How did you do that?" "Basic customer service," Jake explained. "You treat people with respect, explain what you need, apologize for the inconvenience, and most folks are happy to help. It's much more efficient than all the shouting and threatening." Gorp chittered weakly. "But we're supposed to be feared across the galaxy." "Why?" Jake asked. "Fear is bad for business. Scared customers don't give referrals." Zara flickered uncertainly. "Referrals?" "Yeah, word-of-mouth advertising. If you treat people professionally, they tell their friends. Pretty soon you've got more business than you can handle." The 3 pirates contemplated this revolutionary concept while Jake went back to fixing their life support systems. Word traveled fast through the pirate networks of the Outer Rim. The Cosmic Menace, previously known as the galaxy's least competent raiding crew, had somehow pulled off the most polite and efficient heist in recorded history. "I heard the human actually apologized to the victims," whispered Captain Skag of the Void Ripper. "My sources say he organized a buffet," added Commander Threx of the Dark Nova. "But a buffet. During a raid." The gossip was getting increasingly wild. Some pirates claimed Jake had convinced an entire merchant convoy to voluntarily donate their cargo. Others insisted he'd negotiated bulk discounts on future heists. The truth was somehow both less and more disturbing than the rumors. Meanwhile, aboard the Cosmic Menace, Jake was reviewing their financial records and having what could politely be called concerns. "Guys," he called out, holding up a data pad that was smoking slightly because their computer systems were still held together with hope and determination. "We need to talk about your accounting practices." Vex slithered over reluctantly. He'd been dreading this conversation ever since Jake had mentioned basic bookkeeping 3 days ago. "Is there a problem?" Vex asked, though he already knew the answer. "Problem?" Jake stared at the numbers like they'd personally insulted his mother. "You spent more on ammunition last quarter than most small planets spend on education. And apparently you've been paying docking fees at premium stations when there are perfectly good budget facilities in the same systems." Gorp chittered defensively. "Premium stations have better atmospheric compositions." "They have fancier coffee," Jake corrected. "The atmospheric composition is regulated by galactic standards. It's literally the same air, just more expensive." He scrolled through more entries, his expression growing increasingly pained. "And what's this charge for intimidation consultant services?" "That was Boris the Terrible," Zara explained. "He taught us proper villain poses and threatening dialogue." "You paid someone to teach you how to stand menacingly." Boris said presentation is everything in the piracy business. Jake rubbed his forehead. "How much did you pay Boris?" 15,000 credits, Vex admitted. 15,000? Jake's voice cracked slightly. "You could have bought a new ship for that. Or hired a legitimate business consultant. Or invested in proper equipment maintenance." The pirates shifted uncomfortably. They were starting to realize that maybe their business model had some flaws. "Jake," Vex said carefully, "what would you do differently?" Jake pulled up a new document on his datapad. "First, we switched to a subscription service model. Instead of one-time raids, we offer ongoing security consultation services. Companies pay us a monthly fee to identify vulnerabilities in their shipping operations." "That sounds like extortion," Gorp observed. "It's consulting," Jake corrected. "Completely legal consulting. We help them improve their security. They pay us for the service. Everyone wins." "But what about the terror and mayhem?" Zara asked plaintively. "We can still do terror and mayhem," Jake assured her. "We'll just charge for it professionally and provide proper documentation for tax purposes." The conversation was interrupted by an incoming transmission from Captain Razor of the Bloodfang, one of the most notorious pirate crews in this sector. Vex. Razor's scarred face filled their view screen. "What's this I hear about you recruiting some kind of superweapon human?" Vex looked around nervously. Jake was in the background, reorganizing their tool storage for optimal efficiency. "Superweapon?" "Don't play dumb with me," Razor snarled. "My sources say your human single-handedly conquered the celestial dreams without firing a shot. That's the kind of psychological warfare we need in our fleet." "Oh, that wasn't psychological warfare," Vex said. "That was just Jake being polite." Razor's expression shifted to confusion. "Polite?" "Well, yeah, he's very considerate. Yesterday he helped me reorganize my personal belongings and showed me how to optimize my sleep schedule for better health." There was a long pause. "Are you feeling okay, Vex? You sound weird." "I feel great. My stress levels have dropped significantly since Jake implemented better ship maintenance protocols. Did you know that proper air filtration can improve cognitive function by up to 12%? Razor ended the transmission without another word. "Was that normal?" Jake asked, looking up from his organizing project. "Not even a little bit," Gorp admitted. Over the following days, other pirate crews started avoiding sectors where the cosmic menace was operating. The rumors had grown to mythical proportions. Jake was now supposedly a master interrogator who could extract information through polite conversation, a tactical genius who won battles through superior logistics, and a psychological manipulator who could convince anyone to do anything. The reality was that Jake had reorganized their supply closets, fixed their navigation system, and convinced Vex to start drinking more water for better health. But the galaxy's pirate community was convinced they were dealing with humanity's most dangerous operative. "You know," Vex said thoughtfully as they watched another raider ship flee at the sight of them, Maybe having a terrifying reputation isn't such a bad thing after all. Jake looked up from the maintenance schedule he was updating. Terrifying reputation? Are people scared of us? Apparently they're scared of you, Zara said. That's weird, Jake mused. I wonder why. Admiral Crix of the Galactic Defense Force was having the worst day of her career, which was saying something since she'd once had to explain to the Senate why her entire fleet had been defeated by what turned out to be a flock of migrating space whales. Tell me again, she said, staring at the intelligence report on her desk, how a single human has managed to revolutionize galactic piracy. Lieutenant Commander Blesh, a nervous Centaurian with too many eyes and not enough sleep, cleared his throat. According to our sources, the human designation Jake Murphy has increased the operational efficiency of the Cosmic Menace by 400%. They've completed 17 successful raids in the past month without a single casualty or property damage complaint. No casualties? Admiral Crix blinked her 6 eyes in sequence, which was how her species expressed extreme disbelief. They're pirates, not customer service representatives. That's what makes it so terrifying, Admiral. They're somehow more effective by being polite than other crews are by being violent. Our psychological warfare department is calling it weaponized helpfulness. Admiral Crix reviewed the files. The Cosmic Menace had somehow convinced 3 different merchant convoys to voluntarily redistribute their cargo in exchange for security consulting services. They'd negotiated a bulk discount agreement with a luxury resort chain. They'd even received a customer satisfaction rating of 4.7 stars on the Galactic Commerce Review Network. 4.7 stars? She repeated weakly. The missing half star was because one passenger complained about the buffet having too many vegetarian options, Lieutenant Commander Blesh explained. Dispatch Battle Group 7, Admiral Crix ordered. If this human is as dangerous as our reports suggest, we need overwhelming force to contain the situation. All of Battle Group 7, Admiral? That's 12 capital ships and 40 fighters. Are you sure that's necessary for one pirate vessel? Lieutenant Commander Admiral Crix said grimly, We're dealing with a human who has somehow made piracy profitable, efficient, and customer-friendly. I'm not taking any chances. Meanwhile, aboard the Cosmic Menace, Jake was running a systems diagnostic when Gorp burst onto the bridge in a state of advanced panic. Jake. Gorp chittered frantically, all 4 arms waving. We have a problem. What kind of problem? Jake asked, not looking up from his work. After a month with this crew, he'd learned that Gorp's definition of problem could range from we're out of coffee to the ship is on fire. Galactic Defense Force problem. Big ships. Lots of them. Coming this way. That got Jake's attention. He looked at the tactical display, which he'd recently repaired and upgraded, and whistled softly. That's a lot of firepower. What did you guys do? We didn't do anything. Vex protested. We've been following your customer service protocols perfectly. Customer service doesn't usually warrant a military response, Jake mused, studying the approaching fleet. Unless, I see what happened. What? Zara flickered anxiously. They think I'm some kind of strategic asset, Jake realized. Word must have gotten out about our improved efficiency. From a military perspective, a human who can revolutionize piracy operations would be a significant threat to galactic security. Gorp chittered miserably. Are we going to die? Jake considered this question with the same methodical approach he'd used to diagnose a malfunctioning waste processor. Probably not. But we're definitely going to need to have a conversation. A conversation? Vex stared at him. They brought 12 warships. That's not a conversation, that's an execution. It's a negotiation, Jake corrected. They want something, we want something. Basic problem solving. The lead battleship was hailing them. Jake accepted the transmission, and Admiral Crix's face appeared on their view screen, flanked by what appeared to be the entire command structure of the Galactic Defense Force. This is Admiral Crix to the vessel Cosmic Menace. You are ordered to surrender immediately and prepare for boarding. Hi, Admiral, Jake said pleasantly. I'm Jake Murphy. I understand you're concerned about our recent business activities. Admiral Crix blinked all 6 eyes again. You're the human? Man. That's me. Listen, I think there might be some misunderstanding about what we're doing out here. Could we maybe discuss this before anyone starts shooting? Violence is expensive and nobody wants to fill out the paperwork. Paperwork, one of Admiral Crix's subordinates whispered. He's concerned about paperwork? Are you surrendering? Admiral Crix asked. I'm suggesting we explore our options, Jake said. You've got a piracy problem in this sector, right? And we've accidentally become really good at piracy. What if, instead of arresting us, we work together to solve the underlying issues? There was a long pause while the entire bridge of the flagship tried to process this suggestion. You want to work with us? Admiral Crix asked slowly. Why not? You need expertise in anti-piracy operations. I've learned a lot about how piracy actually works. Seems like a win-win situation. Vex leaned over to Gorp. Is he seriously trying to negotiate a job interview while we're being arrested? I think so, Gorp whispered back. 6 months later, Jake Murphy was sitting in a comfortable office aboard Starbase Omega, reviewing applications for the Galactic Anti-Piracy Consulting Initiative. His official title was Director of Reformed Criminal Integration Services, which was a fancy way of saying he helped former pirates find legitimate employment. The Cosmic Menace was now the Gapshi's primary training vessel, where Jake and his crew demonstrated modern piracy techniques to Defense Force personnel. Vex had discovered he had a talent for theatrical presentations. Gorp's natural anxiety made him excellent at identifying potential security vulnerabilities. Zara had become surprisingly good at technical demonstrations, mostly involving creative ways to disable ship systems without causing permanent damage. It's ironic, Jake had explained to Admiral Crix during their first official meeting. Pirates are terrible at piracy because they focus on the wrong things. They spend all their time on intimidation and violence, but those are the least efficient aspects of the whole operation. If you want to stop piracy, you need to understand what actually makes it work. The program had been remarkably successful. Piracy rates in their sector had dropped by 60%, largely because Jake had convinced most of the local pirate crews that legitimate security consulting was more profitable than actual piracy. It's all about the business model, he'd explained to a conference of former pirates who were now certified security analysts. Why steal one shipment when you can get paid monthly to protect dozens of shipments? It's basic economics. Today, Jake was reviewing an application from a new crew that had specifically requested human consultation services. He opened the file and immediately started laughing. The application was from Captain Drac of the Stellar Nightmare, and it included a holographic message. Greetings, fearsome human, Captain Drac announced, trying to look impressive in what appeared to be a costume made from recycled aluminum foil. We have heard of your legendary capabilities. We wish to recruit you for our crew. We promise excellent pay, exotic locations, and all the violence you can handle. Jake saved the message and started composing his response. After 6 months in this job, he'd gotten pretty good at handling recruitment attempts. Captain Drac. He said, recording his own holographic message, "Thank you for your interest in human consultation services. However, I should inform you that our program has a 100% success rate in converting pirate operations to legitimate business enterprises. If you're committed to maintaining an illegal operation, I'm probably not the consultant you're looking for." He paused, then added with a slight smile, "But if you're open to exploring more profitable and sustainable business models, then I'd be happy to discuss our reformed criminal integration services. Fair warning, though. Most of our clients end up making more money legally than they ever did through piracy." He was about to send the message when Vex slithered into his office, carrying what appeared to be a very official-looking document. "Jake," Vex said, "you need to see this. It's a formal communication from the Galactic Pirate Alliance." Jake took the document and read it twice. "They're disbanding? They're disbanding?" Apparently, so many of their member crews have switched to legitimate security work that they can't maintain operational standards. They're officially dissolving the alliance and recommending that all remaining pirate operations consider career counseling services. Jake sat back in his chair. Well, that was unexpected. "There's more," Vex said, looking pleased with himself. "They've asked us to help them establish a galaxy-wide security consulting network. Full legitimacy, government contracts, the works." "And you told them?" "That we'd need to review their business plan and conduct feasibility studies before making any commitments," Vex said proudly. "Just like you taught us." Jake nodded approvingly. "Good negotiation strategy. What about the others?" "Gorp is teaching a seminar on risk assessment to former smugglers. Zara is helping the Defense Force develop new non-lethal ship disabling techniques. Everyone's keeping busy." Jake turned back to his computer and modified his message to Captain Drac. "One final note, Captain," he added to his recording. "You should be aware that the Galactic Pirate Alliance has officially disbanded due to lack of interest in traditional piracy operations. The industry has shifted toward legitimate security consulting services. If you're interested in joining the new economy, we're accepting applications. If not, well, you'll be pretty lonely out there." He sent the message and leaned back in his chair, satisfied with a job well done. "You know what's funny?" he said to Vex. "What's that?" "I never wanted to be in the salvage business in the first place. I just wanted to get away from fixing toilets." Vex looked confused. "But you're not fixing toilets anymore." "No," Jake agreed, "but I'm still basically doing maintenance work. I'm just maintaining galactic security instead of waste management systems." He turned to look out the viewport at the stars beyond the station, then started composing a new message. This one was addressed to the Galactic Communications Network, to be broadcast on all pirate frequencies. "Attention all raider crews, pirate operations, and assorted criminal enterprises," Jake began. "This is Jake Murphy, former maintenance worker, current director of Reformed Criminal Integration Services, and apparently the galaxy's most accidentally terrifying human." He paused for effect. "I've been asked to deliver a message to anyone still considering traditional piracy as a career path. After 6 months of working with reformed pirate crews, I can confidently say that legitimate security consulting is more profitable, less dangerous, and significantly more satisfying than illegal raiding operations." Another pause. "However, if you're absolutely committed to maintaining a criminal lifestyle, please be aware that modern anti-piracy protocols have been developed based on extensive analysis of actual pirate operations. Your traditional methods are no longer effective, your business model is obsolete, and your competition has moved on to better opportunities." Jake smiled at the camera. "So attention raiders, a human rides with the reformed crews now. We've seen your operations from the inside, we've identified your weaknesses, and we've convinced most of your colleagues to find better jobs. This is your first and final warning: adapt to the new economy, or find yourself very lonely in a galaxy that's moved past the need for your services." He ended the recording and sent it out on all frequencies. "Think that'll work?" Vex asked. "Probably," Jake said, "but if not, we'll just have to help them figure it out the hard way. Either way, it should be interesting." 3 days later, they received 47 applications from pirate crews requesting information about career transition services. Jake looked at the applications and sighed. "I guess we'd better start planning a bigger training program." "At least it's steady work," Vex pointed out. "True," Jake agreed. and the benefits package is excellent. Outside the viewport, the stars continued to shine on a galaxy that was slowly learning that sometimes the most dangerous thing you could do to pirates was help them find better jobs.